Today on the show, we're going moto camping on a press bike that I've only put a couple of dozen miles on that's wildly overloaded with gear that I haven't tested, and I don't really know where I'm going. Did I mention this is a press bike that I don't own? And it would be really awkward to crash this bike considering it's my first press bike, and that really wouldn't look good. What could possibly go wrong? I'm going to a place that I believe is northeast of Portland, Oregon, called Natchez, Washington. I'm on the 2026 Moto Morini X-Cape 700. Like I said, this is a press bike that's on loan to me for a couple of weeks to make a couple of videos and sort of introduce y'all to this bike and this brand if you're not familiar. Let's fire this thing up and get back on the road. We're on Route 14. Sounds pretty sweet, right? So you may have seen my initial impressions video where I talked a little bit about this Moto Morini, but I haven't done a whole lot of riding on it since life has sort of taken over. So this is really the first time I've been out since then. So you're seeing kind of a fresh look. I've put a few miles on it here and there, but nothing major. I've been on this route for about an hour now, and I didn't want to start the video from when I left the house because I really wanted some time to get a feel for this bike on the road, especially loaded up with all this gear. I did a very basic amount of suspension tuning just to make sure that I wasn't going to get any sort of death wobble or anything like that because I was too fully loaded in the back. And that seems to have done the trick. I am completely stable and comfortable and pretty happy to be sitting here. The big plan here is we're going to be entering Natchez in about 3 hours, so that puts the total ride time for this first leg of the trip to 4 hours or so plus stoppage time. So that's time when I need to stop to get gas or a snack or just to shake out the legs, you know, all that kind of stuff. The second leg of the trip obviously will be me going home. I've got enough gear on this bike to last me probably a week out on my own. And I gotta say, the bike is handling it great. The weight of it and all that stuff. So is the Lone Rider gear, by the way. That stuff is holding up fantastic, but as far as the bike goes, the bike is still handling just great. I'm able to throw it into the corners here and the twisties without any problem. You know, the bike takes off. This bike isn't a power demon by any stretch of the imagination, but it's certainly not underpowered. It feels just about right for this kind of adventure, and I guess the older I get, the less interested I am in spending a whole lot of time on dirt. So making sure that a bike is comfortable on long stretches of open road like this is probably the most important thing for me when it comes to an adventure bike, because these are the types of adventures that I do. And so far, I gotta say, this bike has not disappointed. We're only a couple miles out from where we're camping tonight. And that up there, that's wildfire smoke. This place is pretty bad right now. And I did not know that. So this should be interesting. This is interesting. This is where I'm camping tonight. Or so I'm told. We'll see how this works out. I'm not gonna lie, I asked the person inside if they had any rooms available, and they do not. Apparently they have a wedding. So I'm camping, whether I like it or not. Are you kidding me? Oh, I guess you're not. Seriously. Oh, this isn't my favorite day right now. I hope I got the closest one. This is our home for the night, our home away from home in Natchez, Washington. Whistle and Jack's Outpost and Lodge, established in 1957. To say I didn't realize I was camping next to a gas station would be, an understatement. However, it is what it is. I've already set up my tent. I got my Michelob Ultra Zero low carb, no alcohol beer. I'm really living, people. I'm living. This is my Lone Rider tent along the side of the river. I've got a little fire ring over here and a chair. Look at this chair. I mean, you can't beat that for the price. I got myself some firewood at the gas station. There's a raging wildfire a couple of miles from here. I can smell it and see the smoke. So that's a good combination. Anyway, I'm gonna quit my bitching, start a fire, and do some camping. I really need to Google stuff before I make reservations. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's the next morning here at Whistle and Jack's. And after a relatively uneventful night in the tent under the romantic glow of fluorescent gas station sign, I'm all packed out and ready to hit the road on the X-Cape 700. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the bike, do a little bit more of a thorough review, and get home and scrub my brain of all of this. So the riding experience on the X-Cape 700 isn't a ton different than what I experienced on my Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro. And I guess that's both a positive and a negative. The positive is this Moto Morini rides like a more expensive bike. It's comfortable, the suspension feels great for road riding, and in general, the ergonomics are spacious and accommodating, pretty much just like the Rally Pro. But the problem with the Rally Pro for me was that it was almost too comfortable, too accommodating. It lacked character at the expense of poshness, if that's a thing. And so it's kind of the same deal here with the X-Cape 700. What it lacks in character, it makes up for in comfort, but for me, I'd always sacrifice a little comfort for personality. This is why I love the Royal Enfield Himalayan so much, and why I might be spoiled for any other adventure-type bike. The Himalayan has so much character and personality, it's easy to overlook its shortcomings. The X-Cape is a totally different bike than the Himalayan, so it's unfair in some ways to compare the two. But if you ask me which riding experience I prefer, I'd say the Himalayan. That's because I'm me, and my preferences are different than other people's preferences. Objectively though, the riding experience on the X-Cape 700 is a good one, if this is the sort of experience you're looking for. Like I said, it's comfy, the suspension works well, at least for the type of riding I did over the course of 600 total miles. And after a 400-mile round-trip motocamping experience, I can say I ended the trip no worse for wear. No aches, no pains, the seat didn't get uncomfortable, and my back survived without issue. The X-Cape 700 has a 693cc engine, which shows an 18% increase in horsepower over the X-Cape 650. At 70 horsepower, it's got plenty on tap to do what you need, and with 50.2 foot-pounds of torque, it's got enough zing to do what you want, at least at the low end of the rev range. One thing I noticed about the engine was, when you get up to around 70 miles per hour in 6th, and you pin the throttle, there's not a lot there. To overtake a car, it's almost mandatory to downshift. The 693cc engine is totally adequate for adventure riding, but I'm not sure it works as a sport tourer. Not that that's this bike's real intended purpose, but if that's what you're looking for, I might look elsewhere. However, with the stock Pirelli Scorpion Rally STR tires, inverted 50mm fully adjustable Marzocchi forks, rear KYB monoshock with rebound and preload adjustability, and Brembo's front and back, this bike handles quite nicely. Keep in mind this is a heavy bike at 526 pounds wet.
That's a lot of bike to toss around corners and bring to a stop. But the X-Cape is well equipped for pretty much any type of riding, if you're comfortable with that kind of weight. If I were comparing the engine performance and handling of the X-Cape to something like the Moto Guzzi V85 TT, I'd say the Guzzi wins. Compared to the Himalayan 450, that's a tougher one. For me, I'd pick the Himalayan as it's lighter and much more nimble, at least for my riding style. And while the engine on the Himalayan is underpowered compared to the X-Cape, I much prefer the way the Himalayan delivers its power. This is subjective though, and you may very well prefer the X-Cape. They're both fantastic choices. The build quality on the X-Cape was a big surprise for me. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting the world from a Chinese-built, affordable adventure bike. But the X-Cape is a much better bike than the price tag would have you believe. First, given its Italian design, the bike from a distance is quite a looker. In my time with the bike, I had folks who told me they thought it was a Ducati or an Africa Twin. It genuinely confused people. I met 2 Transalp owners who seemed genuinely impressed with it. And when you get closer to it, nothing is revealed that would make you think corners were cut. The finish was spot on, the graphics look quality, the rear brake and shifter levers don't look like afterthoughts like they do on the Himalayan 450. The seat is both comfortable and well made, and the dash is clean, bright, and loaded with features. Like most bikes these days, the handguards it comes with are fairly cheap and flimsy. If you turn the handlebars too far to the left, the right handguard smashes into the top of the dash. There are a few other little things like that that remind you you're not on an expensive bike, but it's nothing that really detracts from the overall riding experience. As far as features, it's got a full-color 7-inch TFT that'll do maps, music, phone calls, and so on. I didn't spend any time with the Bluetooth integration, as my first attempt to get things hooked up was a failure. I didn't have enough time to try again. It's also got a built-in dash cam, which is great if you're into that kind of thing. Again, I didn't get a chance to test it. The bike has a tire pressure monitoring system as a stock feature, but lacks cruise control, heated grips, a quick shifter, and aux lights. Most of that is no big deal, but for me, cruise control is a must-have, especially for touring. Though my Himalayan 450 doesn't offer cruise control, I was able to find a third-party solution via Viridian Cruise that works great. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a third-party solution for the X-Cape. One thing the bike has that's great for touring is an adjustable windscreen. I did notice some buffeting in all positions I tried it in, and it did rattle a bit, but it's decent and fairly well designed. It also comes with a center stand, which is one of the easiest I've ever tried on a motorcycle. This bike isn't loaded with features and tech, but what it has works well and altogether makes for a nice package, especially for this price. Moto Morini boasts over 80 dealerships across the United States, with more coming on board all the time. They've also got a fully stocked parts warehouse in California. It's a small number of dealerships compared to other manufacturers, but it's not insignificant. Royal Enfield, however, has about 160 dealerships in the United States. And if you believe the internet, KTM has close to 1,000 dealerships here. It's not clear if all of them sell motorcycles, though. Same with Kawasaki at over 900, Yamaha at nearly 800, and Harley-Davidson with about 600. All this to say, while Moto Morini isn't a strong presence in America, it's pretty well established and growing. So, chances are you live close enough to a dealership to feel safe in buying an X-Cape. As far as regular maintenance, there's good news and bad news. The good news is this bike will go about 26,000 miles or 42,000 kilometers between valve clearance checks. The bad news, and something to keep in mind if you'll be using this bike for long-distance touring, is it requires oil and filter service every 3,700 miles or 6,000 kilometers. That's rough, but if you're carrying the tools and have a place to dump used oil, you can do this yourself on the road. It's just one more thing to have to worry about, though. I haven't seen a ton of negative reports on Moto Morini reliability aside from the normal stuff like rattles and loose bolts here and there. Keep in mind, though, that the X-Cape 700 is a new model from Moto Morini, so reliability reporting is limited. The X-Cape does come with a 3-year unlimited mile warranty, so that should offer some peace of mind when it comes to this bike. If I'd bought this bike and had to look back at the 600 miles I've ridden so far, I'd have to say it's been a positive and trouble-free experience. There's nothing about the bike that would have me on the phone with the dealer complaining. Nothing fell off, nothing broke. Just a good all-around experience. In the end, from everything I've seen and experienced, I'm pretty confident this bike will hold up well over the long haul. And if there are any problems, it's clear Moto Morini stands by their bikes. Manufacturers don't offer 3-year unlimited mile warranties on bikes they know will be in the shop every other week. This is the tough part of the review for me because at the end of the day, me and this bike just didn't click. And it's not the bike's fault. In fact, if I were in the market for a modern middleweight adventure bike, the Moto Morini X-Cape 700 would be on my list, alongside the Tenere 700, the Aprilia Touareg 660, and maybe even a new Moto Guzzi V85 TT. All those bikes though are significantly more expensive than the X-Cape, and that's where Moto Morini has really filled a gap. They're making a truly capable, good-looking, and nice quality adventure bike that is nicely priced and even nicer to ride. But for me, I'm leaning more toward lighter, more nimble bikes these days, as are a lot of riders. This is evident by the emergence of bikes like the Triumph Scrambler 400, the KTM 390, and of course, the Himalayan 450. The X-Cape is a good, capable bike, but in my eyes it lacks the character that I look for in a motorcycle. This is so subjective though, I hate to even include it in this review. What I find characterful, others might consider rough. What I find lacking in soul, someone else might appreciate the refinement. But here's what I know. I rode 400 miles round trip to go motocamping, and the motorcycle itself didn't inspire me along the way. It got me there safely, comfortably, and with no drama. But I didn't find myself looking back at it when I walked away from it like I do with bikes I really love. I didn't find myself spending long periods of time just enjoying the bike on long, boring roads. The roads were just long and boring. The best way I can describe it is, I was lonely. Usually on long stretches where there isn't much to see, that's when I really bond with my bike, where I feel like I'm on a buddy trip and my buddy is my bike. That kind of thing didn't happen this time. But I hope my experience doesn't dissuade you from trying this bike out. It really is a solid choice if this is the kind of bike you're looking for, and the price at about $8,300 US is pretty hard to beat. For $8,300 you're getting a motorcycle that'll take you just about anywhere you want to go, in style and comfort, and backed by a fantastic warranty and a fully stocked supply warehouse. Sure, it's built in China, but built in China doesn't automatically mean cheaply made anymore. The Moto Morini is a fine example of that. While I've had my preconceptions about Chinese-built motorcycles, the X-Cape has convinced me that they may be unwarranted. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear what you think about Chinese-built motorcycles in the comments, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.